It's time for Who's Who Tonight. Interesting topics, fascinating people. And now, your host of Who's Who Tonight, Mark Bishop.
Tonight's guest was born in Los Angeles, California. His acting career started in 1961. Although he appeared in many iconic television shows of that era, like Bonanza, Rawhide, and My Favorite Martian, his big break came in 1964 when he landed the role of Eddie Munster in the CBS situation comedy The Munsters. Despite the fact that only 70 episodes were made between 1964 to 1966, The Munsters has always been kept alive through syndication, remakes, and spin-offs. Celebrating the upcoming 50th anniversary of the show, will you please welcome tonight's guest, Mr. Butch Patrick. Butch, welcome to Who's Who Tonight.
Thanks, Mark.
Well, thank you, Butch. Thanks for being on the show. All right, Butch, tell us about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Southern California, and the oldest child. I have a sister and two younger brothers. Started acting in 1960-ish, so I was almost 8 years old, kind of 7 to 8 years old. And then I basically started off very quickly, moved back to the Midwest with my grandma, and came back to do the Munsters, and moved back to the Midwest with my grandma again, and came back to do more work, and worked from 60 to 72, and then I kind of took my hard-earned cash and decided to retire for a while and go play at the beach.
Now, Butch, you became an actor at a very early age. How did you get started being so young?
Pretty much accidentally. They were a woman had a friend who was an agent, was looking for clientele. Took some pictures of my little sister. I happened to go along for the ride. They were really focused on my sister, but took a few extra pictures of me, put them in the window on Hollywood Boulevard, and the agent sent me out on the 3 interviews, and I got all 3 of them, which was a commercial for cornflakes, a movie with Eddie Albert and Jane Wyatt, Brenda Lee, and Soupy Sales, a good little B-movie, and then a series, a soap opera actually called General Hospital in its pilot season.
As I mentioned in the show's intro, you acted in some really iconic television shows before The Munsters, like The Real McCoys and My Favorite Martian. I'm not sure if many people are aware of that fact.
Yeah, a lot of the 60s, old 60s shows. It's like the other night I was just going through the channels and I noticed a Santa Claus movie for the Untouchables, which was, I did that, and I think I was about 8 years old. It was the night they shot Santa Claus. But yeah, I did a year after the General Hospital. I went over to did a year of The Real McCoys. But in between, when I'd be on hiatus, I did a lot of shows, westerns. I Could Ride a Horse, a lot of cop shows, The Detectives, The New Breed, like you said, Ben Casey, My Favorite Martian, Genies, and Mr. Eds. Did 2 Mr. Eds. Had a lot of fun.
So even though you were young, you were keeping yourself pretty busy.
Yes, I was very busy.
All right, now the question that you've been asked 1,000 times. How did you land the role of Eddie Munster?
I had left the Real McCoys. I did that for a year. I went back to live with my grandma in the Midwest, and they called me and they said, my agent said, they want to fly you out for a screen test of this new series they're casting. They've looked at all the kids. They haven't really found anybody they like. So me and Yvonne DiCarlo were paired up to do a screen test together. And after we did the screen test, they let the mother and son that they had on the cast, let them go, and they replaced us.
Now, do you recall, was there a lot of competition for the role at the time?
Yeah, they've gone through, the number I heard was 400 to 500 kids.
400 or 500?
Yeah. That was interesting for me because I just didn't have to do a screen. I didn't have to do an audition or a reading. It was just directly to the soundstage, and it was kind of like a overnight, not even an overnight. It only took about an hour, and by the time I was done, they said, "Don't go back to the airport," and make arrangements to. My mom was living on the East Coast, so I had to live with my uncle, and I hired a woman to take me to work every day.
Now, Butch, what was a typical day on the set? I mean, did it vary from day to day, or Was there some type of regiment that you guys followed on a weekly basis, or?
Yeah, it was a weekly situation. Monday was a reading day. Tuesday was a rehearsal, non makeup day. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday we would film. I lived about an hour away, so I'd be on the road by about 7 to get there by 8. Get into makeup, get out of makeup by 9. Get into school. Try to get school knocked out before lunch or immediately after lunch, and then work the afternoon.
Now, Butch, I'm sure you have a lot of memories of being on the show. Is there any moments that stood out for you?
Yeah, sure. It was more of the show itself was great, but being on the lot at Universal when I wasn't working on the set and I had free reign to go do what I wanted to do, it was a great place to go explore. A lot of movie shoots are happening. It was a very big back lot. Hang out at McHale's Navy, go out and see my uncle who supplied horses to Wagon Train or the Virginian. It was that type of a thing, or go to the makeup lab and see what the Westmores were up to and what they were creating. A lot of stuff going on aside from just the soundstage we were on.
Yeah, I guess for a young kid, that was some pretty cool stuff. But during downtime, did you have any other kids to hang out with, kids your age, maybe like other child actors?
No, I had friends in the industry because you'd see them on other shows, but for that particular show, I was the only kid on the entire Universal lot, unless there was a guest star on the show with me, which happened about once a month. There was about once out of every 2 or 3 shows there would be a guest star. So I had somebody come visit me, but most of the time it was just me and the adults, which was fine. I kind of grew up fast, and they used to call me a 39-year-old midget because I was very small and looked and acted a lot older than my years.
I'm sure you got a lot of respect doing what you did at such a young age at that time. Now, Butch, did you find it difficult being a child actor?
No, not really. It was pretty simple stuff to me, and it was an alternative to public school, and I just, I knew it was kind of interesting and something special, came fairly easy, and it was fun. So to me, it wasn't difficult at all.
Now, you worked on The Munsters from 1964 to 1966. When the show came to its end, do you remember being upset about that?
No, actually, everybody was pretty satisfied with the run. Everybody was looking forward to going back to their homes and their lives before. So, no, there wasn't really much of a letdown. And I went back into public school and did that for a while. And then I moved again back east. My grandma had moved from Illinois to Missouri, so I went back to Missouri in the 8th grade, stuck around there for a year. And then I went back to Hollywood when they started doing Adam 12 and My Three Sons, and then with Disney movies, did several Disney movies, things like that. So for me, it was fine.
Then after all of that, in 1971, you ended up with another series, a kid series called Lidsville.
Yeah, it was a kids series, but it was shot very much written for adults, and it was a psychedelic period, and Sid and Marty Krofft were doing some very interesting things with H.R. Puppet stuff, and the Bugaloos and Lidsville, and they did Sigmund and the Land of the Lost. They had a very long string of popular shows and very successful shows. Worked with Charles Nelson Riley. That was an interesting summer of '71. But yeah, it was a very ahead of its time show. We were doing 3 cameras, chroma key, a lot of director from the soundstage next door, kind of like done like a sports shoot, sort of, so to speak, where there'd be somebody in the booth overseeing all the cameras and all the operators.
Now, Butch, you just mentioned when you were filming Lidsville, you had to act with a blank blue screen or chroma key screen with images superimposed afterwards. How difficult was that?
Different. It definitely was different, especially with the amount of people with the hats that would be simultaneously talking, even though they weren't talking. You'd be hearing the voices from the talent, voiceover people coming in over the loudspeakers, and it was kind of hard to keep track of 10 or 15 little hats that weren't really making any noise, unless you knew who was speaking and the dialect, and like how the sounds and the voices were coming over. It can become very confusing. We got through it.
Yeah, that's one of the tough jobs of being an actor sometimes is you're working with people that aren't really standing in front of you.
Yeah.
Now, Butch, you mentioned working with Charles Nelson Riley on the show. Now, most people remember him from his guest appearances on Match Game in the 70s. He seemed like a real character.
He was a very, very funny guy, and he had done a lot of work. He was at that particular point in time. He was doing the Ghost and Mrs. Muir, and he had 4 or 5 different series going. And the funny part about it was he used to complain daily about his makeup. And I always had a good time because I didn't have the makeup this time around, and he did. And I just told him, I said, Charles, you should have been Eddie Munster. You would have loved it.
Now, after Lidsville, you pretty much gave up acting.
I left it. We both parted amicably. I wasn't in the mood to act. I was never a career move for me. It was just something that I could do, and it was an ends to a mean. I wanted to be a race car driver, so one thing led to that. It just kind of parted ways, and then I decided in 1983 when MTV came on the air that we would make some rock videos. So we created Eddie and the Monsters and did a theme of the Munsters show, updated with lyrics, and called Whatever Happened to Eddie. And that was kind of how I brought back the Munsters back into my life. Up to that point, I pretty much had separated myself from it.
Can we play that song?
Okay.
From 1983, here's Eddie and the Munsters with their song Whatever Happened to Eddie, featuring Butch Patrick on lead vocals.
Whatever happened to Eddie? I'm the kid from Mockingbird Lane. Whatever happened to Eddie? Did I freak or go insane? You might wonder why I have a dragon for a pet. Well, he's just there to keep me company on the set. Whatever happened to Eddie? I'm the kid who picks up bread. Whatever happened to Eddie? Yes, I'm the kid with pointed ears. Whatever happened to Eddie? Well, after all these many years, if you dare peek through my shaded window screen, you turn so white as seems so much green. Whatever happened to Eddie? Well, I'm the kid from Mockingbird Lane. Whatever happened to Eddie? I got out and split from school. Whatever happened to Eddie? But I always kept my cool. I spent my nights just howling at the moon or hanging out in a creepy black lagoon. Whatever happened to Eddie?
From 1983, that was Eddie and the Monsters with their single, Whatever Happened to Eddie. Now, Butch, I want to play the flip side of that 45. This next song coming up features, once again, Butch Patrick on lead vocals, Eddie and the Monsters with their song, Little Monsters.
I've got an itching, burning feeling, a strange sensation, what could it be? Under the microscope, something's growing, there's little monsters crawling on me. They're on the floor, they're in the air, on my clothes and in my hair. Little monsters, little monsters, little monsters out. Tiny creatures on my TV, itsy bitsy animals eating my food.
That was Eddie and the Monsters, featuring Butch Patrick on vocals, with the 1983 song Little Monsters. Now, Butch, you recorded another song just recently. The song is entitled It's Only Halloween.
Yeah, I did that about 4 years ago. That's fun. It's a nice little Halloween song, yeah.
All right, well, here's Butch Patrick with his latest song, It's Only Halloween.
Hi, this is Butch Patrick, and you Monster fans, and it's only Halloween. There's scary witches here and there, and silent murders everywhere. Don't be afraid, it's only Halloween. With children playing trick-or-treat, you recognize no one you meet. Don't be afraid, it's only Halloween. The wind is whistling through the trees, a weird, eerie tune. And if you look real close, you see a mask on Mr. Moon. The sweetest girlies wear a scowl, and even little puppies howl. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid, it's only Halloween. All around, and scary witches to be found. Don't be afraid, it's only Halloween. With children playing trick-or-treat, you recognize no one you meet. Don't be afraid, it's only Halloween. The wind is whistling through the trees, a weird, eerie tune. And if you look real close, you see a mask on Mr. Moon. With silent murders everywhere, suspense and mystery fill the air. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. It's only Halloween. There's scary witches here and there, and silent murders everywhere. Don't be afraid, it's only Halloween. With children playing trick-or-treat, you recognize no one you meet. Don't be afraid, it's only Halloween. The wind is whistling through the trees, a weird, eerie tune. And if you look real close, you see a mask on Mr. Moon. The sweetest girlies wear a scowl, and even little puppies howl. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid, it's only Halloween. There's goblins running all around, and scary witches to be found. Don't be afraid, it's only Halloween. With children playing trick-or-treat, you recognize no one you meet. Don't be afraid, it's only Halloween. The wind is whistling through the trees, a weird, eerie tune. And if you look real close, you see a mask on Mr. Moon. Silent murders everywhere, suspense and mystery fill the air. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. It's only Halloween.
That was Butch Patrick with his latest tune, It's Only Halloween. All right, Butch, let's talk about some of your latest ventures. I heard a rumor that you and your sister are in the process of purchasing your grandmother's home in Missouri and turning it into a haunted bed and breakfast.
We're in the process of doing that. So it'll just be me. My sister's probably going to stay on the West Coast, but I'm thinking about moving to the Midwest. if we get the house and it is haunted, and it would make a nice piece of property for my radio show I'm going to be doing hopefully next year. And it would also be good for locations for studios or whatever. So we're thinking about taking on the house. The haunted bed and breakfast may happen, but at this point in time, we're just mostly concerned about getting the property into our hands so that nobody else gets it.
So we're coming up on 50 years since the first episode of The Munsters was aired.
Next year will be 50 years, yes.
Well, Butch, do you have anything special lined up for the anniversary?
Well, there's a couple things, several actually. One of the things I'm working with Formula 51 Tattoo Ink. There's so many people have Munster tattoos on them over the years. They've been coming by my table that Chris, who owns it, asked me if I would be a celebrity ink spokesperson for them, and I said, yeah, that would be a fun way to go around and do a new line of conventions that I normally haven't done. And we have car shows lined up. I have a Munster Memory book in the works that's going to hit the stands, the bookshelves on bookstores, September 24th of next year, 50 years to the day. And it's all about what the Munsters meant to America and the stories that I've heard. It's all fan-related, all fan-based. It's very cool. It's writing itself. All I have to do is take the stories and lay them out, put them into a book form, and then do the little anecdotes and then intros to each page. It'd be fun. I do some stuff with Munster muscle cars. I sent some cars to Australia. We had the first Hot Rods on television, and George Barris and I are good friends, so I wound up doing a lot of car shows with him. That's a lot of fun. The ink, I can actually marry people. I became an ordained minister to do goth weddings at some of the personal appearances that I do. So we make kind of I like to do something a little bit different than most people. So when you come to my table, instead of just having 8x10s, we have front door keys for my sister, 1313 tombstone keys, and woof woof keys, some keys to my castle. We have the Munster Memories. Please submit your stories. We have the ink, stuff like that.
All right, Butch. Well, tell us about your fan base. You seem like you have a very loyal fan base.
Well, I do a lot of pop culture things because one day I was just kind of going over my credits, and let's face it, I only really worked in the 60s, 60 to 72, but what I did in the 60s was pretty expensive, and, when you take the Munsters, you take the real McCoys, that's all fine and dandy, but I was looking at, like, the Mr. Eds and the My Favorite Martians and the I Dream of Genies, the Monkees, the Phantom Toll Booth, Chuck Jones's only feature film. A lot of those are very pop culture classic situations. So I started doing more appearances with collectible shows and memorabilia shows and pop culture shows because the Munsters was heavily merchandised, number one, for the toy factor, but the pop culture angle, having done all those interesting shows that really are mainstream and, A-list pop culture things, especially the Monkees. That's kind of cool, and the Phantom Toll Booth itself. Working with Chuck Jones and doing his only feature was quite an honor.
Well, it seems like for the most part, you're really keeping yourself pretty darn busy.
Yeah, I do. Actually, what I'm doing this year is I'm going to build, when I do the major conventions like the Comic-Cons or the Bangorias or Horror Hound or any of the Days of the Dead type stuff, which are big conventions on each. I'm going to bookend on like Wednesdays and Tuesdays on each side of the weekend. Smaller tattoo venues. I'm going to go to tattoo studios, introduce the ink, do a Eddie Munster tattoo contest type of thing. At the end of the year, we'll find who has the best Munster tattoo. But the main thing is to introduce this ink and to do some smaller conventions and see a lot more people out in Americana.
Now, to get your current appearance schedule, people can go to your website, munsters.com.
I'm pretty much at home right now until after the first of the year. But after the first of the year, we'll kick it up a gear, and I'm taking full advantage of the 2014, 2015 to get out and see as many people as I can in person.
Well, Butch, thanks for taking the time for being on the show.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Butch Patrick.
Thank you, Mark. Bye-bye.
Remember, folks, for Butch Patrick's schedule, please visit his website, www.munsters.com. That's it for us. For Who's Who Tonight, I'm Mark Bishop. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Who's Who Tonight with Mark Bishop. Visit us on YouTube and on Facebook, or go to our website, who'swhotonight.com.